Super Mario Sunshine is an amazing game, but have you ever wondered if you could beat the entire thing without jumping? That's what we're going to be finding out today. But first, we need to lay out some ground rules. For the sake of this video, I've decided to label a jump as anything that involves Mario physically pushing off the ground. This includes normal jumps, double jumps, triple jumps, side flips, jump dives, spin jumps, rolling out of dives, jumping off trees/poles, jumping out of water, and wall jumps. So basically, our only options for vertical movement are dives, the hover nozzle, and the rocket nozzle. This severely limits Mario's abilities, but hopefully it's enough to be able to make some progress. And with that out of the way, get ready to catch some rays since it's time for the challenge. Believe it or not, our first obstacle appears before we even start the main game. I'm sure you all remember that this game has a very unique menu setup, in which you're supposed to jump up to select which save file you'd like to play. Obviously there isn't really a way around all this, so is that it? Is the challenge over already? Well, I've decided to not count this since the game technically hasn't started yet, but I can totally understand if you want to count this since it technically is a jump. Now that that's out of the way, we can move on to the actual game. The Delfino Airstrip was pretty much the same as usual. After grabbing Flood, I used him to spray down the Proto-Piranha plant, which earned us our first shine. Nice. Our next destination was Delfino Plaza. Destroying the second Proto-Piranha was just as easy as the first one, and chasing down Shadow Mario went a lot better than expected. In fact, it only took about 5 seconds of spraying for him to go down. Ha! What a wuss. But after that, I could move on to our first actual level. The first level we have to tackle for this challenge is Bianco Hills. For Shine 1, I was pretty stumped on how to get over this wall. Luckily, I discovered that I could grab onto these trees using the hover nozzle, which gave me just enough height to get to the other side. After that, I just defeated the boss like normal, and the shine was mine. Shine 2 worried me at first since I had to climb to the top of this tower, but it wasn't nearly as tough as I thought it'd be. There were a few tricky spots along the way, but they were all possible thanks to the Flood Pack. Even the PD Piranha fight was pretty simple since I could use the hover nozzle to get on his stomach and ground pound him. Shine 3 was up next, and unfortunately, it's our first secret level, although getting to the secret level was hard enough on its own. I kept trying to hover over from the side of this wall, but Mario kept falling because the ground was too far away. I tried this for probably half an hour before I realized that I could just use these platforms on the other side. Stupid me. Always using my head. But anyways, I entered the secret level, Shadow Mario took away my Flood Pack, and it's over. The very first platform I have to get up is too high off our starting location. I tried diving at just about every angle, and even tried climbing the nearby trees, but it was to no avail. So unfortunately, no. It is not possible to beat Super Mario Sunshine without jumping. I knew this challenge wasn't going to be possible from the beginning, but damn, it really sucks that we got stopped so soon. Well, I guess since I've got you here, let's at least try to continue on while jumping as few times as possible. And believe me, our story is truly just beginning. I decided to use my first jump to climb up this tree and dive to the second block. After that, I had to jump 3 more times because there was nothing else to work with. Next up were these rotating star platforms. I had to time my dives out very precisely, but it was actually a lot easier than it looks. Once I got past all that, I was finally at the shine. The only issue was I couldn't grab it. Dives weren't cutting it since the shine was too high off the ground, and there weren't any other objects nearby that could get me any more height. Or so I thought. By diving off this slant at the right moment, I could land on this corner piece that was at a slightly higher elevation. Then all I had to do was dive and ground pound towards the shine, and that was enough to grab the bottom of it. Shines 4 and 5 both required the rocket nozzle, but other than that, they were pretty standard. And for Shine 6, I bounced off this pond skipper so that I had just enough height to get into this cave. But the secret level that followed wasn't so slick. Just like the last one, there were certain spots where jumping was required, so there really wasn't much I could do. The least amount of jumps I could get here was 4, but who knows, maybe a test spot could do better, I don't know. And finally, Shine 7 was just chasing down Shadow Mario again, which didn't take too much effort. And with that, we can move on to Ricoh Harbor. Shine 1 honestly wasn't too bad. I was able to take this elevator in the water, which led me straight to the boss. Gooper Blooper doesn't normally require any jumps to defeat him, so once again, I was all set. Shine 2 felt pretty strange since I couldn't jump around down the obstacle course, but it too could be completed painlessly. But the same could not be said for Shine 3. At first, I had no idea how I was going to get up there, since almost all of the paths required me to jump off these girders. That's when I decided to try the elevator again, and this time it seemed promising. I used the top of the elevator to get on top of this building, and from there, I could climb along these rooftops until they led me back towards the labyrinth. So now I was up, but I still had one major problem. I needed the rocket nozzle in order to get inside the cage, and despite being pretty high up, I still wasn't high enough to get it. I was seriously thinking that I was going to have to jump, but that's when I realized I was thinking about this way too hard. All I had to do was drop down and hover up onto the bottom of the cage. Then all I had to do was flip myself inside and the rest was history. But now on to Shine 4, and this shine was nothing but pure misery. My first objective was just getting to the secret level. I had to use the same path as the last shine so that I could have enough height to get up this tower, which was tedious on its own, but it was nothing compared to what was up next. This secret level mainly consisted of these long rotating blocks that I had to get across. While I was close enough to dive to them, doing so was incredibly difficult since the blocks rotated so fast. I actually tried to get Mario to bonk into things in order to get him up faster, which helped out a lot, but it was still really painful. Then after that were these rotating gears. Once again, diving between them was stupidly difficult since most of the time the physics just said nope. And if that wasn't enough, there were even more rotating blocks after that, which took an extremely long time to get down. After several hours of trial and error, I eventually made it to the end. But man, this level just sucked. Shine 5 was a nice breather after the last one. It was just another fight against Gooper Blooper, so just like last time, it was extremely doable. But then came the red coins, and oh boy were they a doozy. Not only do you have to collect them all on a blooper, but you also have to do it under a strict time limit. This alone makes this shine incredibly difficult, but it's still possible, right? Well, apparently not, because there's one stupid red coin that you have to jump for. And since I can't do that, that meant I had to get creative. What I did was start the timer to spawn the red coins, then immediately turn around. I then made my way across the water, courtesy of these platforms, and used them to hover over and collect the coin. Then I had to swim like mad back to the start, hop on a blooper, and grab the rest of the coins with whatever time I had left. I was really worried that I wouldn't have enough time, but hey, I finished the mission with only 6 seconds to spare. Now all that's left is to go grab the shine and... oh. Well, this is a problem. Yeah, it turns out that you actually have to jump onto the dock to collect this shine, but that isn't exactly my cup of tea. Luckily, this level has one savior, a single Pianta floating on a rubber ducky inner tube. Apparently, running into the sky wall on a blooper causes Mario to fall off instead of simply dying. I don't know how or why this works, but regardless, it allowed me to complete this shine jumpless. And for the last one, I just had to take out Shadow Mario again. It was a little bit of a pain since he moved all around the level, and as we've learned, traveling anywhere in this level takes forever, but alas, it was more than manageable. Now on to Gelato Beach. The first shine up was another secret stage, so you can imagine how thrilled I was with that. Thankfully, getting to the secret stage this time wasn't nearly as bad as before. This level had lots of sand blocks that I had to walk across, with some having very large gaps between them. For the first part, I was able to get across the first 3 gaps, but the 4th one was impossible. I just didn't have enough speed after the third one to be able to make it across, so unfortunately, I had to jump. After that were even more sand blocks, except this time they were elevated. I had to jump 5 more times here, and then 2 more times later on. After barely diving onto the tip of this ledge, I had to climb up this huge tower of sand blocks. I tried a bunch of different ways to get up, but in the end, the best I could do was 5 jumps. So in total, this shine cost us 13 jumps. Ay caramba! Shine 2 actually surprised me with how simple it was. Normally you have to jump and ground pound on these mirrors to send the Plagettalos flying, but floating with the hover nozzle and moving downwards just a tiny bit did the trick. Shine 3 was the battle against Wiggler, and things were going pretty well at first. I used the sand mounds to get enough height to get on top of Wiggler, which worked for the first 2 hits. But for the last one, Wiggler fell really far into the water, so this strategy wasn't going to work. I tried multiple times to hover over from the beach to get on top of him, and eventually, it worked. I have no idea what I did differently, but the important thing is that it worked. Shine 4 is infamously known as the Sandbird level, and funny enough, I had a harder time getting to the Sandbird than the Sandbird itself. I first tried jumping off the big hill in the back, but Mario wasn't able to hover after sliding, so this was out of the question. I tinkered around with this for a bit before realizing that Mario could walk up certain parts of the hill without sliding off. Once I figured that out, I hovered over to the tower and just barely snagged the tip of the tarp. Getting the red coins on the Sandbird was just as simple as usual. I just had to dive and ground pound for the coins in the air, and that was about it. Shine 5 was my first race against Il Piantissimo, and doing it without jumping was proving to be quite difficult. My plan was to dive, bonk into this tree, and then climb up it. Then I would hover over to the mirror and use it to get on top of the hills. Then from there, I just had to move as fast as I could to beat him. This took quite a few tries before I was able to perfectly optimize this route, but eventually, I was able to pull it off with almost no time to spare. Seriously, I was literal milliseconds away from losing, I'm not even joking! But anyways, Shine 6 was just a red coin mission that was entirely underwater, and Shine 7 was just Shadow Mario again, and once the deed was done, we were finally finished with Gelato Beach. Well, I don't know about you, but I sure am pooped. In fact, I'm so pooped that I think I'm going to have to stop here for today. But don't worry, our journey's still far from over, so tune back in next week to see part 2 of this Jump-less challenge. Otherwise, click the video that should be appearing on screen right now. Ah, there it is. Anyways, I hope you'll join me for part 2, and until next time, see ya!